Go ahead and get started. Welcome to Mayor's Night Out, Hammond 6th District. I'd like to thank Colleen Berggren, the principal of Scott Middle School. Where are you, Colleen? Thank you very much. Could you give her a big round of applause? I'm going to go ahead and start off with host councilman. He's going to go ahead and welcome everybody. So let's give a warm welcome to 6th District Councilman Scott Rakos.
It's good to see everyone. At least some of us were able to get around that train. My first time up here was 2 years ago, and the Cubs were starting the National League Championship Series, so nobody wanted to hear anything. We were all getting out of here. Last year I tried to make up for it, and I talked so long the mayor practically kicked me off stage, so I'll keep it short today. I just want to say how grateful I am for the work with the staff here and the mayor. They do an excellent job and make my job so much better. Major project this year, obviously, is the Hessville Park project. By next Memorial Day, we should have something that's really proud, something to be proud of, and something that bears Hessville's name. I'm still working as a supporter and liaison with the city and HC3. The Hanson Branch Library building is coming along really well to be a community and senior citizens veterans center. We had our fourth, I believe, community cleanup this weekend, including our Scott principal, Mrs. Bergen. The kids have come up, and what we noticed is it takes less time and less bags to pick up the garbage on Kennedy Avenue, which is an indication that the business community is also coming through for us. I know everybody wants lighting and street road projects. I try to do the best I can based on crime and stuff that I see. What I've found in the last 3 years, to work with the city, civic groups, and nonprofits, and try to leverage the funds that I was able to maximize for the benefit of everybody. And again, welcome everybody here.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, let's go ahead. Mylan.
Mayor,
Oh.
we have a big room, so we need
Yeah,
to spread
nice.
out.
Let's go ahead and introduce the department heads.
Sure. Mylan Krasinski, Hammond Port Authority.
Bob Vale, Building Department.
Ed Crusoe, Hammond Waterworks.
Kelly Kearney, Inspections Department.
Jaime Prieto, Code Enforcement.
Jeff Smith, Fire Department.
Chris Campbell, Information Technology.
Carmen Paniagua, Housing Authority.
Chris Cantor, Law Department.
Ann Anderson, Economic Development.
Africa Harbor, Planning and Development.
Dean Button, Engineering.
Scott Rakos, 6th District Council.
John Doty, Hammond Police Department.
Phil Talon, Chief of Staff.
Mark Heinz, Parks and Recreation.
Ron Novak, Environmental Management.
Oana Miller, Community Development.
Joe Medwoods, Public Works.
Dennis Brodowski, United Neighborhoods, Inc.
Jack Smith, Sewer Maintenance. Marty Wolgus, Hammond Sanitary District.
Matt Muta, Hammond Sanitary District.
Heather Gray, City Controller.
Sharon Daniels, Personnel and College Bound. Donna Muta, Special Events.
Hey, there you are. Okay, I was scouring the room for you.
Talking, sorry.
All right, I want to remind everybody that this is all driven by written questions. We start off on the written question, and then we sort of freelance off of the written question. So let's imagine the first question's about that damn train that's blocking Scott Middle School, okay? What we would do is we would read off the question about the train blocking Scott Middle School, and then we would talk about it, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and start off talking about that damn train blocking Scott Middle School. About a month ago, when I first took over as Mayor of Hammond, I worked really closely with the police department and realized that a lot of in fact, most of the effort that the police officers put into ticketing these stop trains is for naught at the end of the day, because they'll take thousands of tickets that we've written over the years and they'll literally settle it for nothing. And quite frankly, the trains don't care. And they don't care about Hammond. They don't care if they're stopped and blocking our intersections. But we had that ordinance that we relied on, and we had the officers go out there and ticket these trains every time they would block an intersection. And it was, an annoyance to them, but we thought it would help. Well, the Supreme Court of Indiana came out about a month ago and said that any ordinance is unconstitutional in Indiana, which means we have no recourse whatsoever when a train blocks an intersection. They were here first. And that's really what the Indiana Supreme Court held, is they were here first. It's a supremacy issue. The federal government, trains and the federal government are over the top of the states. So quite frankly, Chris, you could probably explain a little bit better. Where are you, Chris? This is Attorney Cantor, Hammond's Corporate Counsel. Chris, could you get into particular? And then JD, I definitely want you to speak up on this.
All right, it goes back a little bit farther. Before, the city of Hammond used to have an ordinance, and the ordinance says that the trains couldn't block the crossings for more than 10 minutes. And it was said, no, you can't have an ordinance. And then the state law says you can't block the crossings for more than 10 minutes. And then they said, no, only federal law controls. So even the state of Indiana is powerless to regulate how long a train can block a crossing. Only the federal government can. So I suppose...
Which is what? The Surface Transportation Board.
Correct. So the only person who maybe could do anything to help us is Congressman Visklaski or one of our federal senators, because the trains answer to no one, especially the city of Hammond.
They were here first. Chief, I know that you guys wrote thousands of tickets.
Thousands. My entire career, we've been writing these tickets. Sometimes they're stopped waiting for switches, and we would still write them even though we might have been a little more understanding when schools were not getting out, because it still ties up general traffic. But they've been very egregious at other times, and I've seen them myself. They'll stop at restaurants and get out and go into a Taco Bell and get lunch and then go back to their train and then pull off. So while they're blocking half of Hammond to do this. The federal government says no. We never stopped doing it. As the mayor pointed out, we were doing it for naught. It was getting tied up in county court. They were taking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines, getting it knocked down to about $50,000, of which county, I believe, spent on some sort of training out there. So all those man hours that we were spending were for nothing. The ones that really suffer are our children the most. We did suggest a few years back through our traffic division that the federal government might prompt the railroad to build some pedestrian crossings over the target areas, especially out here in Hessville. That was not received at all. We never received responses. But it was suggested because our greatest fear is that a child is going to get run over by a train, which I did see when I was in elementary school here in Hammond. One of my classmates was killed by a train at a crossing while I was walking home. So that issue is pretty near and dear my heart. Maybe we can reapproach them on that and see if they would fund these bridges. I don't think we'll have much luck, though.
I know my city engineer's sketching ideas on paper, and we're working with them right now to try to figure out, particularly in Hessville, how we could maybe work with the federal government and get us over these tracks. We're working on that issue right now. I don't think it's ready for the public scrutiny at this point, but I know that's one thing we're working on. But as far as complaining to us, asking us to do something about it, the Indiana Supreme Court made it loud and clear. We have no role in trains at all in the city of Hammond. Quite frankly, I think Congressman Visklaski would be challenged himself, and he would probably have to get a lot of other help to even make a dent. And so it's really sort of a depressing topic. It's really apropos pulling into Mayor's Night Out with 2 intersections blocked. Most of the people trying to figure out how to get here are going all the way around, Klein to get here. We may as well just start talking about it. So I know that this is on our mind because it's blocking us as we speak. So does anybody have any questions or follow-ups to this?
I've got one here, Mayor.
Good. Look at that. We
would a
anticipated.
walking-
I didn't know that there was a question in there, by the way. I just assumed. It's just like, we may as well just start talking about it.
Is a walking bridge an option?
Yeah, that's an option. But there's options that the city engineer is daydreaming about that's better than, but I mean, the great thing is it's a great plan. The hard thing is it's an expensive plan, but it would get us over. It would help eliminate some at-grade crossings. Dean, I know that you're working on it. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's in pencil at this point, but I know that you were talking about some grant that's available if we eliminate at-grade crossings, right?
Yeah, if you don't mind. It's
Yeah.
The legislature had put together a plan a couple of years ago, House Bill 1001, to do some infrastructure funding, and part of that was a set aside of about $10 million a year to fund debt service on $150 million worth of railroad grade separation projects. The applications were due in August. We made an application for a vision that we have here, thanks to the mayor for his direction on that. And it's kind of unique, so it's pretty bold, and it's 28 other applicants were also submitted throughout the entire state for the $150 million of funding, and we think we have a really good chance. It's still early on. We expect to get some sort of notice in November, but I had an interview last week and it looked really good for Hammond. So it's an 80-20 match, so the city would have to come up with 20% of the funds.
It's a big project too.
It's a roadway, full street bridge crossing of the railroad tracks in Hessville.
It'll change the way you do business here, but
Yeah.
it's expensive. But if we can get 80% of the cost covered, it's hard to deal with. I know it is, and that Indiana Supreme Court case didn't help us. I don't know if they're cockier, the trains are cockier now that case came out, or if they're just as cocky as they've been. You guys probably know that better than I do. But that case didn't help us. That case put us in our place. Hammond in our place. Indiana, cities and towns in their place. You don't belong at the table when it comes to trains, despite the fact that it's one of the most common complaints I receive from citizens. Fact, they don't care. I was frustrated. I'm a lawyer too. I can get in trouble for criticizing the Indiana Supreme Court. Okay, but it's, I don't know. It's just frustrating because it's a real problem. It's a problem in Hessville especially, and they're putting us in our place, that we don't belong at the table. So from now on, when I get these complaints, it sounds sort of depressing giving you the answer, but I've been known for telling you the truth, and I'm just telling you what we're being told. And so, anyway, do we have any more questions in the audience?
Yeah, one more, Mayor.
Sure.
If a parent sees a student attempting to cross over a train, should they contact 911 or the non-emergency number?
Chief, I'm going to let you answer that one.
911, two reasons. One, when you call 911, they know who and where you're at. So if you get disconnected, they can call you back. So you should always do that. Don't worry about, tying up the lines. Just call 911 if you need us. But especially if there's a child crossing a train, the train could start up. That's all they need. The child will fall. They will be jolted from the train immediately. Anybody who's watched a train start or stop, that's a pretty violent action. You should maybe do a follow-up school call. Maybe they can get somebody over to identify the student to talk to them, maybe coach them. I know that's what the police will do if they make contact with the child. We're just going to try to coach them, give them some life lessons, get them not to do that again so they don't get hurt.
Okay. Questions from the audience on this issue? I know it's a big issue, and I know everybody wants to ask a question, but it's probably sort of depressing news we're giving to you right now. Maybe that's the reason not a lot of people are asking questions. And yeah, hey, Councilwoman.
Emergency routes
Thank
to
you.
hospitals
Right.
and things like
Hammond,
that.
and when you talk to the firefighters, they'll tell you that the reason we have so many stations in our city is because of the train lines. And when you see a train stop like that, you realize why Station 8 is where it is, why Station 5 is where it is. There's a reason. And so I'm going to let Chief Smith jump in and talk about this issue. But Chief, when the city was cut up, there's a station strategically in every part of the city, assuming the worst case scenario. Is that true?
That's very true. The Station 5 on Holman that you talked about, the tracks used to go through there years ago. That separated the rest of East Hammond, so they had to have something on that side. Same thing in Hessville with Station 8. I mean, Station 6 is right there. But because of the tracks, and as we see what happens right now, as far as getting to the hospitals, I mean, our guys will shoot up every street they can until they can find a place to get across. I mean, we've gone as far to go to Klein Avenue to try to get to Munster. Going East Chicago is no different. You go down Kennedy Avenue, when you get to East Chicago, you get to Chicago Avenue, you could see the train if it's going east or west, and you just got to shoot back over to Kennedy and get over those, or to get over to Railroad Avenue.
Right.
There's just no easy way. I mean, if the train's there, you got to either wait or, a lot of times waiting's probably easier than going 4 miles out of your way just to get back to the hospital. But there's no easy way to do it, especially coming from Robertsdale.
So when it comes to Hammond, I mean, we assume the worst case scenario. That's why the stations are where they are, right?
Yes.
Thanks, Councilwoman. Any other questions about trains? All right. So we got that topic covered. Might as well hit it first, right? I know it's on everybody's mind. So let's go ahead and jump into the rest of the questions then, Donna, if you don't mind.
Sure, Mayor. This one's for police. There's an extreme amount of traffic on 6300 Tennessee, and they go really fast. Can we get a slow speed sign to slow people down? There's lots of children in our neighborhood.
Chief? 60. Oh, nice. 6300 block of Tennessee, traffic going high speed. They were asking for a sign.
Okay, we'll get traffic out there right away and monitor that for you. We have new traffic control devices we can put up. If we have a lot of complaints in an area, we put up a covert system in your neighborhood, and it tracks vehicles much like a speed gun does, a radar. It does a count for us of how many vehicles is going down your street, as well as high and low speeds, gets an average for us, and we can do enforcement based on that. So I'll forward that to the traffic division as of tomorrow.
Another thing, Heather Garay, City Controller, is on the Board of Public Works and Safety. I know they deal with issues like this also.
We do. We meet every week on Thursdays at 9 a.m. So if you have this issue in between Mayor's Night Out, you can always address the Board of Public Works and Safety. We'll refer it to the correct department, and as Chief said, they'll send some officers out there to do a study.
Thanks. Okay, any follow-ups on that? I just had, right in front of my house, right as I was pulling out for Mayor's Night Out, I saw a Camaro going like 65 miles an hour down Knickerbocker. It's annoying. I mean, you see it. I see it in my neighborhood. I know we all see it. And you wish there was a cop right there that could take care of it. And, you know, but it happens everywhere. But I live right by Purdue, so we get the students a lot doing the same thing. So anyway, all right, let's go. Keep it rolling.
Okay, next up, Mayor, what do you think you would tell your grandchildren you did to preserve the city of Hammond's natural resources for them?
Interesting. I would tell them about a lot of the park projects we did, for sure. I would definitely talk about the bike trail projects that we've done and that we're not done yet because Hessville's left out of the bike trail projects just because of the way our city's drawn up. But I would definitely talk about them. I love the parks. And, you know, I wish I could tell them about the great things we could do at Gibson Park. You know, that's something that we've talked to the county. I've talked to County Councilman Dave Ham about it. He's tried to work with the county parks, and the county parks aren't interested in letting us take control. I think Gibson Woods is a jewel, and it's underutilized. I think most people in the city of Hammond don't even think about Gibson Woods. I think we could do a lot better than the county's doing on that park, but they're not interested in letting us, you know, do that. And we've approached the county on numerous occasions about it. And there's a dune and swale back there that they're really concerned with. I don't even know what a dune and swale is, but it's back there. So anyway, this. Anybody have follow-ups on this? I don't know if I hit. Mark? Oh, yeah. I would definitely talk about Wolf Lake for sure. Where's Mark Hines?
I'm here.
I would let Mark Hines do most of my talking for me. Hi, Mark. Mark's Hammond Park Department. Been with us for a couple years now. Came from the Dyer Park Department. Is a degree in parks. So he's all about parks. What would you talk about, Mark?
I am. I think a lot of our jewel in this part of the country is the Great Lakes, and I'm not trying to defer to Mylan, but I am going to defer to you in a second here, Mylan. But the access to the Great Lakes and where the data center is going in, the development along the lakeshore, making sure that the public has access to Lake Michigan is a huge continuation that I think we want to be able to continue, and that's something I know that's important and close to you because you stressed that to many of us across our staff meetings. The Oxbow Park here as well, that's along the Little Cal, is an area that we want to that is there, set aside as preserved. The green spaces, improving green spaces across the city is definitely a challenge, and those are hard times to deal with. A lot of those natural areas are things that do get set aside. We are fortunate as a municipal city to have some large park acreage. Our parks are very sizable. When you think about some of our parks across the city, from Riverside to Hessville to Harrison to MLK to Pulaski to Wolf Lake, there's some really substantial acreage within those parks, and they all have many different areas that we have. We obviously do also have a lot of our youth sports and the active areas, but we look at those passive areas of recreation as well. And that's something that we've really been stressing most recently, the walking paths throughout all of our parks to try to improve our accessibility to the parks, and also give places where people can just go and enjoy and bird watch and butterfly watch. An interesting side note, just a year ago, we were actually unfortunately cutting down some of the dead ash trees at Harrison Park when a bald eagle was spotted in the park. That's pretty cool. I don't know the last time you guys have seen bald eagles in Hammond. It was about a month ago that I saw 2 of them flying over here in Hessville by the soccer complex. So they're here. They're increasing their numbers. Those are things that are being done because of the improvements to our parks across the country. So that's a plus for us here in Hammond.
Mylan, could you jump in on this?
Sure. Well, up at the marina, we were designated the first clean marina in the state of Indiana. We've maintained that status. We try to make sure that the boaters don't dump much into Lake Michigan. Why? Because Mr. Cruz's water department is right next door, and we get our drinking water from Lake Michigan. Moving down Calumet Avenue to Wolf Lake Memorial Park, Mayor, there's major commitment by the city to make sure that we take care of that park and that lake and everything surrounding it, like the trails as well. So we have now a good loop around the lake.
You have staff that monitor it 24 hours a day.
Yes, we do.
I saw something interesting with your staff yesterday. I thought it was really cool. And it's something I want to do in City Hall. I noticed at the Lost Marsh, I was at an event last night, I noticed one of your security guards walking around the Lost Marsh in parts where hardly anybody walks to, and they had to beep in at certain parts
With the
of the
little
building.
button, and then we're able to take and download that stick, that wand, and make sure that the security guard did their rounds.
That's beautiful.
It is.
It's beautiful.
Thank
So you do the same thing with your security guards that are going around Wolf Lake to make sure that
Yes.
they're checking the pavilion?
There's a number of places that we have them get out of the truck.
See, Mylan, that's good stuff.
Thank you.
That's real good stuff, because you want your security guards getting out. And the thing about Mylan's staff, he has people that are protecting a $34 million asset out there. And how do we know at 2 o'clock in the morning that they're doing our jobs? Well, we know because they have to go beep in. I think that's something we got to think about in City Hall, for sure. They're doing it right, and it's a great idea.
Thank you. And then you're right there at George Lake, which is right there by the golf course. We're out there trying to do the best we can to protect that lake as well. So, yeah, the mayor's got a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of lakes, a lot of open space to make sure we take care of. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And, you mentioned something while we're talking about environmental and parks, but it's interesting, and I wanted to pass off to Ed, if you don't mind grabbing a microphone, Ed. What's going on in Florida? What happened a couple years ago in Ohio, in the Great Lakes over there with the algae pods, and now what's going on with the red tide and the algae in Florida? I mean, if we ever had anything like that happen in the Great Lakes, and that's from fertilizer and runoff and E. coli getting into the water and stuff growing in the water, if that ever happened, it would jeopardize $20 million a year of revenue that goes through the Hammond Water Department. A lot of that's coming to the city of Hammond, offsetting our tax bills. I know that, we're watching this kind of stuff all the time, but I know it's really interesting what's going on with the environmental in the water. I don't think you're on, Ed.
Thank you. Lake Erie had the algae bloom that was really nasty, but Lake Erie is very shallow.
And that was off fertilizer, right? That would run,
Yes,
the stormwater would go in and...
Exactly. That was due to agricultural chemicals in Lake Erie. Florida's going through red tide, and they're just lucky they've had some high tides that have diluted it, and some wind that have pushed it back out, so that it's not as bad as it usually is. Red tide is very nasty.
I've seen some pictures of where a lot of the intakes are in Florida, and they would literally look like thick pea soup. And this is, source of their water supply in a lot of cases. It's just, that would be such a nightmare scenario. So that's the stuff we have to think about is, talking about the Great Lakes and how beautiful they are, but it's also a source of our drinking water, and we got to protect it, and that's...
No, exactly, Mayor. And in Florida's got a lot of aquifers, but the aquifers are fed by the ocean, and it could be very, very nasty. Probably the worst case of the algae bloom was in Milwaukee, where it killed 17 people, and before they could even realize that their potable water supply was contaminated.
When was that?
It goes back in the early 80s.
Yeah? Wow.
Very nasty.
Yeah, so interesting. But that's a great question. I've never been asked that before, and I've been mayor a long time.
Hi, my name is Jane Barron.
Hi, Jane.
And I have a variety of experiences. Like, I'd like to talk about the school system, children that may fall through the cracks. But anyway, with the park system, I myself was a park leader at Frommer Park in Hessville here in 1980 and 81. And I want to say that it's good if there are activities at the park that the children can be involved in. Like I was a park leader, and then I had people under me, a couple of people under me.
Right.
And anyway, we did arts and crafts. We read books to them or whatever, and this sort of thing.
Okay.
And I really like the park. And my apartment currently, I live at Williamsburg Square
Good.
Apartments.
Mhm.
It does face Frommer Park. Oh, and I did go there. The Hammond Public Library on August 3rd or whatever it was had the librarians were there
Okay.
on that day and did something on kindness or whatever. So,
Okay.
yeah. So
I appreciate
they
it.
did arts and crafts and read books on kindness and whatever.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. And, I know Frommer Park could probably use some work, but we did, right around the corner, do a multi-million-dollar soccer complex, which is awesome, and I know the kids enjoy it, and, but Frommer Park's a beautiful park. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know the councilman's talked to me about Frommer Park before, so I appreciate you bringing that up, okay? Any other questions? Seems like parks, the environment. All right, let's go ahead. Hey, I want to recognize the elected officials and thank them for being here. First off, our school city trustee, Cindy Murphy. Thank you very much, Trustee Murphy. County Councilman Dave Ham. Thank you very much, Councilman. Hammond Councilman at Large, Dan Spitali. Thank you very much. Hammond's Council President, Janet Venez. 4th District Councilman Bill Emerson. Hammond's 5th District Councilman Dave Orpel. Hammond's Hessville's Councilman Scott Rakos. Hammond City Clerk, also a Hessville resident, Robert Golick. From North Hammond, 1st District Councilman Mark Kowinski. Thank you. I appreciate the elected officials being here. Let's go ahead and jump into the next question.
Okay, Mayor, we have an exchange student in the house,
All right.
and they would like to ask you, this is part of her curriculum while she's here,
Okay.
what have you done over the years to local government to make Hammond a better place to live?
At the time I took over, first off, where's the exchange student from? Hi. Hi. Wow, where are you from?
Hello, my name is Jasmina Kirimova. I'm from Turkmenistan.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. I think when I took over as mayor, I was young, not as young anymore, but when I took over, I was very young, and I brought in, I think, sort of a fresh change. I think at that time, we needed to think differently. I changed a lot of personnel, so it was just sort of a change, just sort of a shifted in gears, and the previous mayor was a great person, and we're good friends now, but I think when I came in, it was just a different direction. We needed to think differently, and I think that's what I bring, is I think differently. I brought in a lot of different leaders, and we went in a different direction, and I think it's worked well for our city. But at that time, I think I ran at the right time, because I think Hammond was looking for a change at that time. Hopefully they're not anymore. But it's nice to meet you. I appreciate you coming out. How long are you in America for?
It's good. I like it here.
Yeah. Are you for the whole school year? Or?
Yes, whole school year.
Nice. Your English is very good.
Thank you.
Nice. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you. All right. That's nice. Have to say, been doing Mayor's Night for 15 years. Never had an exchange student ask a question before, so good job. So, all right, let's go ahead and keep it rolling.
Mayor, just a thank you to you and Councilman Rakos for the lights on Nevada and the speed signs that were implemented. Thank you.
Oh, Scott Rakos. Look at you, city engineer. Dean Button also. You know, it's a partnership between the councilman and engineering office. You know, a lot of hours, a lot of hard work put in between those two. I know Scott drives all over the city and he has ideas, and Dean's driving all over the city and he has ideas, and I have crazy ideas also, and we all merge those three crazy plans together and come up with our strategy. And, you know, I think Councilman Rakos does a great job in the 6th district. And, you know, one of the frustrating things about being a district councilman is there is millions and millions of dollars of need and $1.75 million every year to get it done. And it's a challenge to get it done and to balance, you know, constituents' happiness with the actual money you have available. It's really a hard balance. So anyway, great. Let's keep it rolling.
We've completed the written questions.
What? We're done
Yes,
with
sir.
written questions?
Unless there's some out here I haven't received yet.
Yeah? It seems pretty early to knock off. I'm not going to apologize, or I'm not going to feel bad about it, but yeah, let's go ahead. How you doing, sir?
Otis Moore.
Nice to meet you.
I usually walk around the park every morning, the MLK Park,
Mhm.
formerly Maywood Park.
Mhm.
And I've seen billboards about the new park.
Yes,
I
sir.
even seen billboards about the Mayor's Night Out. That's why I seen it here.
Thank you.
I seen billboard about the Veterans Day Parade.
Yes, sir.
But I have yet to see a billboard about the new Hammond High School that's supposed to be built in Hammond.
Good question. Real good question. I love it. What's your name again? Nice to meet you, Otis. First off, I appreciate you using MLK Park, and I promise you, you're going to love what we're doing there. We're putting a lot of money and a lot of thought into that park. And the thing about MLK Park before and after, MLK Park before had one small little part of the park that actually mentioned Dr. King, and it's named after Dr. King. The new MLK Park is going to have a whole section devoted to Dr. King. It's going to have a splash pad. It's going to be vibrant. We're going to redo the basketball area, and we're going to redo the part of the park to the west, close to City Hall, where the old softball field was that nobody ever played softball in. We're just trying to make it, we're putting a walking track around. We're trying to make it like really like user-friendly and busy, okay? So, and we do put billboards out for things we want people to pay attention to, like when we have a concert in town or the festival or a parade. Veterans Parade is something we definitely got to mention, so let's put that on the list. We'll mention that next. The high school project, there was a ribbon cutting yesterday, and the school city is a totally separate government from the civil city, and they are doing the high school project. Of course, we're supporting, you know, Hammond, you know, the school city and civil city government got to work together, but at the end of the day, I'm not in charge at all in the schools, you know. I'm a visitor here, and I appreciate the schools being available, but I can't. The school board member is. There is a school board member here, and I guarantee you. Well, I appreciate it, Ms. Murphy. And I guarantee you she's taking notes right now because she's a good school board member, and she's going to go back and say, this, you know, I've been mayor for 15 years, all right? And I've gotten a lot better at my job in time. You start learning things in time, and your employees learn, you know, what we want. And every time we do a project, I always want pictures of it up. I want you to see it and say, oh, okay, that's why there's big tractors in my park right now. It's going to look like that when it's done, right? And I know we haven't built a school in a while, so maybe the schools, you know, I'm sure Ms. Murphy will take it back, and you're probably going to see signs real soon, and it's going to be because of your question at Mayor's Night Out. That's how it works. I built a skateboard park in Hessville because this little kid followed me around like 3 straight Mayor's Nights Out. He was like a little, like the kid that in that one movie, the John Cusack movie, that wants his $2 every time. Every time I turn around, this kid's following me around asking questions about a skateboard park. Finally, I built it. I should have named the dang skateboard park after that kid. He's probably like 30 by now, by the way. But, so anyway, thanks for the question, sir. Questions? Hey, let's talk about the Veterans Day Parade. Donna?
Sure. Saturday, November 10th, 10 o'clock. We start at 173rd and Alcott, and we travel east to Kennedy Avenue, where we're going to have a short ceremony for the veterans in Hessville Park, right by the memorial.
The thing about the Veterans Day Parade, it's a great parade, all right? And we'll have hundreds of veterans in it. And then we get in the parade, and the people aren't showing up to it. It's like, I know it's November 11th, I know, and it's cold, and sometimes it's rainy, but we have a parade in December. I get over 1,000 people show up to that parade. This is a new parade. It's only the 3rd year we're doing this route. I'm asking the residents of Hammond to help us out. And we're going all out this time. I got Public Works. I know Gary's back there. I know we've talked about, Gary, you got Public Works employees going to go around and flag the neighborhoods and, you know, remind the residents it's coming up, right? Yep. Everybody loves a veteran. I'm a veteran, okay? And when I got out of the Navy, nobody really cared that much. All right, and then we had 9/11, and everybody's attitude towards the military changed, and it's great. All right, there's no other veteran parade anywhere within 100 miles. So I'm asking you to parlay that love of veterans and just show up and just wave to them, and then go home. It's like, or you know what? A lot of people after they go over to Hessville Park, and it's like a 20-minute ceremony. It's beautiful. There's a couple hundred people there. Usually, everybody in the parade stays for the ceremony. It's really nice, and I think it's nice that we have it in Hammond, and I think we got to do a better job as a community to support that parade. So I'm asking you to show up, bring your kids out there, bring your grandkids out there, and participate in this parade so that we can keep it going. It's a good tradition to have, and I know it's November, and it was pouring rain on us one year, and we still did it, but I'm asking you to support it, okay? And I'm glad we brought that up. So what else are we going to talk about real quick here? Mark, could you do me a favor, do an update on the park projects? We got Hessville Park right down the street under construction. MLK we talked about already. We got Edison Park, and we got the Pulaski Park.
That's correct. A couple of years ago, when we shut the pools down, the repairs and costs became too expensive there. So the park board did a bond issue that has been kind of equally split between those 4 sites where the 4 pool sites were at. Edison was the first one to break ground. We are coming down to the final days there. The landscaping's going in, so that's always a good sign. Landscaping starts going in. That's one of the final things that's happening there. So we'll be having an opening, a ribbon cutting coming up there very, very soon, probably within 2 to 3 weeks out. The Hessville Park would be the next one, being in this section of the city. Mayor mentioned a lot of the improvements there, but a lot of the parks, we're trying to make sure we have the pathways, improve accessibility. There, we're going to have. We put a new playground in there 2 years ago. We were keeping the same playground. We're putting in the poured in place, the rubber safety surfacing beneath the playground. There also be the pathway. We put a new shelter up. You might have seen it already out there. There's also a interactive water feature. We're putting in additional parking. There's also going to be a new skate park. Mayor mentioned the original skate park there. That one has been removed. We're going to put in a concrete bowl type of style park there. And that should all be, as Councilman Rakos mentioned earlier, completed sometime in probably late May when that all wraps up. MLK Park is also underway. There's going to be multiple phases there. We have the first phase underway, which was the demolition of the pool and mostly the west side of the park, west from Tapper to City Hall, expansion of the basketball courts area, some workout equipment, additional parking areas. That's always been an issue in that park. And then the second phase next spring will continue to run to the east with an interactive water feature there. The Freedom Plaza will be done as part of the initial first phase as well, and then also additional shelters and another additional parking area into that second phase as well.
Hey, Mark, we had a ribbon cutting on the Sportsplex last month also.
We did.
2 rave reviews.
We did. We've actually had a lot of events at the Sportsplex already, and we did a ribbon cutting. We also had a grand opening. We've had sponsor nights. We've had volunteer nights. We've had the laborers who all helped work it. We've had them and their families come out. Really, the numbers of people coming through the place are outstanding already. We've had a number of different activities. For those of you, if you haven't been familiar, you're welcome to come over and tour it any day. If you're over in that direction, if you haven't been to the facility, come on in. We'll let you walk through it. There's a 1/4-mile walking track on the second floor there, and there's basically two sides of the building. One's a soccer side, 2 indoor soccer fields, and then on the other side is a wooden gym floor, 6 basketball courts, up to 12 volleyball courts. Really just provides an opportunity to bring people to the city of Hammond for those tournaments, which we plan on running on every weekend, and then kind of using it for our local users here Monday through Thursday. So.
Okay, you guys are forcing us to be creative here. We're coming up with an agenda so we can talk about some things. I wanted IT department, thank you, by the way.
Yep.
Interesting thing about the Sportsplex, before the doors open, how many people in here have seen it? It's over at the former Woodmar Mall. Really? How many people haven't seen it? Okay, and then the rest of them? All right.
Come on by.
Before the Sportsplex opened its doors, it was sold out through June. Every weekend through June. We're going to have tournaments every weekend through June, starting very soon. And I mean, it's amazing to me. When the families come to Hammond, if they're from outside of, the driving radius, they're going to be staying in our hotels, they're going to be eating at our restaurants, they're going to be spending a lot of time in that sportsplex, spending money. We're going to be making the money that they spend in there because we run the concession stand. So it's interesting. The type of revenues it's generating already, interesting. I was at the council meeting and something came up. Chris, how you doing? Chris from IT. I have, I was trying to, it's a constant education, letting the residents know that, it's a lot easier to put your complaints in through Hammond 311 than it is to send a letter the old-fashioned way. And I'm trying to convince a couple councilmen that, maybe they should lead by example and put more complaints in through the 311 system and fewer letters getting sent, every 2 weeks to the mayor's office. Can you do a little 311 commercial, if you don't mind, to talk to the residents about, just a minute or two, the normal spiel?
Sure. So we have an app called Hammond 311. It's available for Android devices or iPhone. So if you have a smartphone, please download the app. We're currently around 5,000 downloads. It's very simple to use, and it's an excellent communication method to talk to us. And what you use it for is, like, if you're in the neighborhood and you see a pothole, or maybe there's a street light out, or maybe even graffiti, you just break out your phone, which Chris is demonstrating here, and you can take a picture of what the problem is. From your phone, we will get the location, and maybe you give us a little bit more information about it. You could tell us, hey, this one's dangerous, or this one, it's right around the corner, maybe you can't see it if you drive down the street, and you submit it to us. And what's great about that is you don't have to wait until you get home. You don't have to wait till 8 to 4:30 when we're open. We're open on Hammond 311 24 hours a day. You submit that to us, and the system will see what you selected, and it will route it to the right department. And that's excellent. So you don't have to worry about, who do I call? Do I call streets? Do I call, Public Works? Who am I supposed to talk to? Just break out the app. So download it, send us the info, and you'll be notified when we get it. You'll be notified if there's an update to the situation, and you'll also be notified when it's closed. So it's a great communication method, and I urge all of you to download it if you don't already have it.
What's funny? One of the things I notice about government is people often, if they insist on, I'm calling the mayor's office with this, okay? Like, maybe you have like branches in front of your house and they weren't picked up, right? And you're like, you know what? I'm gonna call the mayor and give him a piece of my mind. And you call the mayor's office, and maybe I get that message a day later or a couple days later, and then I have to forward that message to the company or to the department that's responsible for it. There's just a built-in delay by not going to the right place immediately.
And the whole time you're stewing because it's not being done.
And the whole time, because there's a message at my office waiting for me. Maybe I'm in Indianapolis.
Right.
And I get back 2 or 3 days later, and you're pissed for 2 or 3 days looking at that pile of branches you wanted picked up when you could have done a complaint, and it would go right to Department of Public Works, and probably the next morning the situation would be rectified.
It takes less than 30 seconds to submit an issue.
Gary, I always do this. And Gary, he's used to this line. I go to him every time. Gary, if I put in a complaint right before I left my house tonight about branches in front of my house, how does that work with you? You're the one on the receiving end.
When you brought it up, I punched it in my phone, and at 6:33, I won't give the whole address, 7200 block of Birch has an item pickup tonight, just now. So I already have it. So by the time we go in the morning, we start at 4, we'll make these tickets out and give them to the foreman tomorrow morning. And there was one just before that was brush that was around 550. So I'm looking at them at night. I can see them right now.
And and I'm not picking on the particular councilman, him and I fight a lot, okay? But I'm not picking on him because his way is I'm sending a letter to the mayor. And then the mayor gets it a couple days later, after 2 weeks before the council meeting. I get the letter a day or two later, and then I forward the letter to Gary, and then Gary gets it, and then finally, the constituent could have been waiting 2 weeks before the situation's finally resolved. Whereas, if I were a councilman and I was approaching that situation, I'd be like, no problem, tick, 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 pink. The very next day, it gets picked up. So we're trying to train ourselves to train the public to do it the right way. It's so fast. If you got a smartphone, it's a free app, and you take cuts. By the way, there's crime tips on there. There's stuff on there that it's amazing. Chief, have you gotten crime tips from the 311 app?
We do. They are monitored. Please don't send us anything that's an emergency. But we get everything from reciprocity, wrong kind of plates, regular crime tips, drug activity. It comes in. Our community affairs guys who are here in the back room there, they monitor that Monday through Friday, and all that is distributed by email to the officers for assignments the day it's opened. But remember, it's not real time. If you need us, call 911. However, if you have something that can wait till later in the day or the next day to be handled, please give that to us.
Like if you think maybe one of your neighbors is dealing drugs out of the house or something, and you don't want to be exposed, but you're like, I see a lot of traffic going in and out. So like, that's not a dire emergency, but I would still be an anonymous tip, right?
Correct. You could pick anonymous on the app. You send it to us. We don't know who sent it. We still get the information, and the narcotics gets it the next day. It's obviously not a dire emergency. We will get to it. We'll queue it in for investigation, and we'll handle it.
And do you get do you get multiple tips on the same location? I'm sure that happens, right? Because
Sure.
if I gave you an address and said, I think they may be dealing drugs, you're not going to go raid the house the next day, right? But if you get 10 tips on the same house from 10 different sources, you're probably like,
Yeah, they're going to pick up on that a little more.
Right.
Much like the last mayor's night out we had a table full of people respond.
By the way, something's happened since then.
Yeah, so we're a month out, and we made an arrest at that house on Amy Court. It was a very quiet neighborhood in Robertsdale. The neighborhood banded together. They came
They were
here.
at Mayor's Night Out, and they didn't care about anonymity. They were like, we're on camera telling you that this house is dealing drugs.
They
And the whole neighborhood was in
voiced
there.
their complaint to the mayor and I, and narcotics was literally, we were on our phones right then, and the
Since
next
that
day they
time?
started an investigation, and there was an arrest already made. So it does help when you call the
I don't
tells.
think, so like, Mayor's Night Out, if you're not afraid, I mean, I put stuff in, I'm not afraid of anonymity, but sometimes I'll do anonymous complaints, sometimes I won't do. But I tell you, if you don't want to be identified, I promise you, there's no way we would reveal who that person is. But, so Hammond 311 is a great thing. Hey, George, what's up?
Can we change the subject?
Sure. We're looking for subjects. Let's talk about that Michigan hat you're wearing. No,
It's just a hat. I wear it to
Come
annoy you,
on.
actually. No,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
kidding. I read in the paper that there's a new push, it seems, for the land-based casino for Gary.
Good question.
And also, there's further discussion on the radio. I don't know to what extent. That was my question is, in light of the tax caps and the elimination of the exemptions and Gary's poor collection rate, does this represent a new, I'm going to use the word onslaught or, you don't laugh, existential threat in terms of competition to our boat?
Good question. Real good question. Real timely. I just had breakfast with Dan Nita yesterday about this issue. Dan Nita is the CEO of Horseshoe Casino Hammond, all right? And Gary's trying to do a power play. And they're trying to bully the legislature because of their financial situation into feeling sorry for them and changing the rules of the game. The rules of the game. They gave Gary 2 licenses at that location. They gave Hammond 1 license, East Chicago 1 license, Michigan City 1 license, and the companies that invested in our communities invested millions of dollars based on the rules of the game. And now Gary wants to change the rules. And I don't support it. And I don't think any other community supports it either. And Gary expects all of us just to fall in line, but we're talking about millions of dollars.
Do they have the lobbying strength to make any inroads? I mean, I know you've been able to resist it, but do they have it renewed? Is it a more
I hope
sophisticated
not.
approach?
We have lobbyists too, and so does East Chicago. I think East Chicago is more outraged than Hammond is about this because we're the biggest casino in the state. All right, and and I'm going to tell you this right now on camera. Gary has 2 licenses, and if Gary's going to relocate the 1 license, I think Hammond should get the 2nd license, and that's an important. And I haven't said this publicly. I've said it once before, and it muddied the waters. But I'm saying it with a straight face. Okay, if we're changing the rules, I think Hammond should get the 2nd license, and we'll build another casino in Hammond. And you know why? Because we're the best location in the state of Indiana for a casino. So if you're going to give Gary a break, give Hammond a break. We'll take the 2nd license right now. We'll build it, and somebody will invest hundreds of millions of dollars in another casino, and we'll make more money than any other community in the state of Indiana, including Indianapolis, could make. So, if we're going to change the rules, let's party.
One last part. Given their real low collection rate, I think it's around 62% of their taxes, would having a boat there actually bail them out come 2020
Nope.
and years beyond?
Gary's problem is the boat is of poor quality, and it's far from the. Listen, Hammond is the closest to Chicago, and we get the biggest gross revenues. All right, and Gary, if they relocated, they would cut off some of our traffic, but they would cut more off from East Chicago, And we already got Michigan City hurting out there because of 4 winds right across the border. Michigan City, I mean, it's getting real hard to do business in Michigan City for the casinos. I just don't see it. And if they are, there's the second license in Gary, and it's going to be a fight over it. And Hammond's going to be part of that, George. Because if we're changing the rules, I want the second license. Maybe we'll put one on 8094 over there by Cabela's. Maybe we'll put a second casino up there by the current casino. But as long as we're changing the rules, let's go for it. Hammond's the best community in the state of Indiana for the second gaming license.
Mayor, if
Yes.
I can also
Sure.
add to that, one important factor to remember, we do have the best performing boat in the entire state. We also have the best development agreement with our casino in the entire state, and that's due to the administration at the time had a very great deal worked out for the city that is in place, that cannot be taken away by the state legislature, and Gary did not do that. They did not negotiate well enough to have a deal like Hammond's. We receive almost half of our casino dollars from the boat directly from Horseshoe Casino as development agreement payments, not taxes. So that's a really important factor as to why we're so successful with that gaming boat here.
So it's interesting what's going on. There's a lot of just crazy stuff in the air right now. There's a big push right now for a convention center and a lot of pressure on, Councilman Hamm to enact a food and beverage tax, and he's opposed to it. And I appreciate that, and we're opposed to it also, okay? But there's a lot of things that are swirling around right now, and I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe that it's a coincidence that Gary's shopping around a second casino license and trying to move their casino. I don't believe it's a coincidence that the Times is pushing big with Spiros for a convention center. And I don't believe it's a coincidence that the White family knocked down their hotel at 65 and 30. I don't believe in coincidences. I wouldn't be surprised to see a big push for the casino to be there. Okay? I don't believe in coincidences, George. And I'm the mayor of Hammond, and I'm not going to be nice on this issue, I promise you, okay?
Do you think they'll really they'll be able to pass a countywide tax for that convention at 1%?
I know what I think, but I'm going to pass off to Councilman Dave Hamm, who knows way better than I do. Dave, could you? Dave, I knew Dave's answer to this, but Dave, assure the crowd this is going nowhere.
It's so inappropriate to talk about how your colleagues would vote. I think you could appreciate that, George. But let me tell you, let me take a wild guess and say that there's 7 county council members and 6 would vote no, and even if they could find them, the 3 commissioners would vote no. So there's 1 out of 10 that supports it. It's not going to happen.
I agree. By the way, if we wanted it in Hammond, it wouldn't happen in Hammond either, right? Even if, Dave may change his view and say, okay, the convention center is going to be in Hammond, we still couldn't get the votes. Ferris? It's not going to pass. The Times keeps talking about it. Spiros keeps talking about it. They want it. Of course, the White family. By the way, they're currently investing $1 million in the Hammond YMCA. I just...
$1 million to Purdue, which I appreciate Purdue, but they gave away $30 million.
Right? That's not going to happen. But like I said, I don't believe in coincidences, and I'm on the record saying I want the second license for the city of Hammond, and we'll figure out where to put it. Okay? And I don't think there's any community that could top us. We'll get the most gaming revenue in Indiana with that second license. So why wouldn't the state want us to have the second one? But it's very complicated, and there's a lot of coincidental things happening at once, and I don't believe in that stuff. So, all right, I'm going to pass off to Ann Anderson, Hammond's Economic Development. Her and Africa work hard every day trying to bring new business to our city. Africa is actually Hammond's appointment to the Regional Development Authority, which is outstanding, besides her being in charge of planning and development. Ann's in charge of Hammond's economic development. And I wanted you to talk, a lot of people don't realize on Michigan, on the south side of Michigan, a lot of people think that's East Chicago, because the East Chicago train station's right
That's
across
right.
the street.
No, that's Hammond.
Right. And there's a big
border.
building going up right now.
There sure is.
Yeah. So talk a
Very
little bit
big.
about that project.
240,000 square foot state-of-the-art new facility for Lear. They are a seat manufacturer. They are currently located on 165th. They outgrew their boundaries a few years ago, and we're searching very hard through the city for another location. We finally found a nice 30-acre parcel that was vacant for decades out on Michigan Street in Hammond. They are getting very close to occupancy. All of the Hammond employees will move there, over 500, and then 300 from Portage will be joining them, so that we'll have over 800 employees there. Right now in the Hammond facility, of the 570 employees, almost 200 of them are Hammond residents. I just got that number today, which I think is
Wow.
great. That's almost
Yeah.
35% Hammond residents, so
That's outstanding.
that's great. So we're very, very happy to have them stay in Hammond.
Hey, another thing, with the old building, now Lear is going to relocate from 165th to this new location.
Yes.
And a lot of people are like, oh, great. So now
Right.
we're going to have the empty
Yeah,
building on
empty
165th,
building, yeah.
right?
No, it's not going to happen. We already have a very interested Illinois manufacturing company.
We're pretty confident.
Oh, yeah, very confident.
So basically, Lear they had 1 foot out the door in Hammond. They had, I don't know how many people know where Ameriplex and Portage is. They had a Lear, like subsidiary out there with a couple hundred employees, and they were ready to move their entire operation out to Portage. I thought they were gone. For about a year, we were negotiating with them. I thought they were gone because we were trying to find suitable locations for them. We were trying to get enough money for them. We're trying to convince them to stay in the city, and it's hard to compete with a cornfield because they could do whatever they want in a cornfield, and in Hammond, they're constrained because we're an old city, old industrial city. Keeping them in Hammond was a major feather in our cap. I was so thrilled, and just to see that building go up, and as big as the Sportsplex is, the Sportsplex could fit inside of what they're doing over there at Lear. It's amazingly large building. So anyway, thank you very much for pointing that out. Great
You're
job
welcome.
to Africa and Ann. Could we give them a big round of applause? I want to recognize some lady we're going to be calling our state representative. Well, I can't call her my state representative because she's from the 1st through the 4th districts in the city of Hammond. Carolyn Jackson, nice to see you. Future state rep. It's weird. State reps, once she's elected in November, she'll be sworn in soon thereafter. They don't wait till January 1st because they have to start organizing. So what's the date on that? Do you know? Or is that 20th, right? It's right around there. So congratulations. Looking forward. Don't forget to go out and vote for her. And anyway, thanks for showing up. It's good to see you, Carolyn.
Mayor?
And then before I get to Mr. Hawkins, I want to remind everybody in Hammond, we trick or treat on Halloween. Okay? I'm old-fashioned like that. It's October 31st, 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock? 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. We're going to have Public Works, we're going to have police, we're going to have every automobile we have out there that we can maintain the safety and slow people down. They'll be out there with their lights on, as we always do. But Halloween, 5 to 7, we don't do the 30th. If it rains on the 31st, it's still 31st, 5 to 7. It just rains that year, and that sucks for the kids, but we have tough kids, and they like going out and getting free candy. So October 31st, 5 to 7, rain or shine, or snow. All right, what's up, Jason?
So, yeah, props to all the cops and everything you have out on Halloween. That is always safe. I love taking my kids around. And,
Yeah, thank you.
But a couple comments just on the stuff that you had talked about with the Sportsplex. At first, I was kind of like, well, what's the Sportsplex going to be like? Because we're talking about bringing in, teams and different tournaments and stuff like that. But I saw on the side of it, it says Hammond Sportsplex and Community Center. And I'll tell you, you guys just have done a wonderful job with the Sportsplex. It's got a walking track that is free, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I've been there the past 3 nights with my daughter, and we've logged in 6 miles already.
Dang.
I mean, you walk around this thing, and not to take business away from the Civic Center, because I love the Civic Center Fitness Center, but you walk around the track, and you don't realize you've walked 2 or 3 miles because you're looking at the wonderful scenery, and you're watching what's going on. And not only that, but they've got all kinds of like open gym sessions for just like $5 and things like that. So it really is like a community center, and you guys have done just a really good job with it. So.
Thank you very much, Jason. I thought the track was a third of a mile. You said a quarter mile earlier.
Yeah, it was designed, it is a third of a mile. I apologize, I misspoke.
Okay. Yeah. So you did 7.5 miles instead of 6 miles. So. Okay. Yeah.
Download a foot app, a step counter,
Yeah, right.
then you'll know what you did. But,
anyway, thanks.
and 311 app is good. As a resident, 311 app made my life easier. As a city employee, 311 app makes my job easier. So
Yeah.
download that. It's
If
really
you're in
good.
the audience right now and you don't use 311, because 311 is built for the person in this audience. Because if you're in this audience, you care about the city, you care about when you see things wrong, you want to fix it on the spot. This is the way to do it. You can take a picture of it, and your picture will tell us exactly where that piece of graffiti is, or that piece of litter is, or that street light that's out. It tells us exactly where it is. Just the picture is geocoded. So download it if you haven't. It's called Hammond 311. It's got the Hammond logo on it. It's free. So, all right, let's go next. Oh, this young lady over here. Hi.
Well, I don't mean to make any trouble.
No, it's
But I want to talk about the school system.
It's-
I'd like to talk about the education.
But ma'am, that's not.
I
like,
went to.
That's
I'm-
like talking about the national debt and Mayor's Night Out. Like, I have no control over the national debt, just like I don't really have control over the school system. You know, that's what school board meetings are for. I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm not in charge of the schools at all.
Well, I mean, I went to school from 1962 in Hammond till 1975 that I graduated in Hammond from Morton. And anyway, I found out I was evaluated. I had 3 evaluations. I was evaluated in 1990, had an emotional diagnosis. In 2016, I had intellectual disability diagnosis with moderate intellectual disability, and then I got very good Medicaid waiver services. And, and I'm quite educated, too. And let's see, what else? Oh, and now I did get another evaluation.
Okay, ma'am.
And this Medicaid waiver psychologist felt that I could have had as a child learning disability, that I could have had injury, birth injury to the right side of the brain, visual, spatial.
Hey, ma'am, do you mind if we talk after? It seems like it's more private, and I don't want to share all that. We got this on Go Hammond TV and stuff like that, so I don't know if we should talk about medical issues.
Well, one thing I'd like to say is that if children have difficulties with their math, like I had trouble with adding and subtraction, like in first grade, a book says that they should be evaluated. They should
Okay.
be for learning disabilities.
Okay, I appreciate it, ma'am. It's very nice. I appreciate you speaking up. Councilman?
Being it's civic oriented, could you please mention the early voting centers?
I was just thinking about that. Thank you, Councilman.
Not political, I mean, I don't care
No,
how you
I
vote,
agree.
but as long as
We're
we
not telling you who to vote for, but please vote. And school board races are going right now. All right, you could early vote. I already voted. Okay, I voted on the very first day you could. Elections can't be looked at as election day anymore. I'm just going to wait until that's the last day you could vote. It's election season. You know, they give us this early vote period to make it convenient for us. And right now, if you go to one of 11 early vote locations throughout Lake County, closest one is in downtown Hammond, or Wicker Park, I guess would be the closest one right now. You could vote, you could live in St. John and vote in Wicker Park. You can vote any Lake County race in any one of those 11 locations. If you're in the Crown Point government building, you could vote your Hammond ballot right there in Crown Point. You just tell them what precinct it is and they'll load it right up. Okay? But vote. This is super important. Regardless, if you think everything's going great in America, God bless. If you think everything's going horrible, or if you're in the middle, we need everybody to show up and vote this election. It's time to put it on the table and figure out which direction this country is heading. So please do your part. Get your entire family out to the polls and vote. And I appreciate Councilman for bringing that up. Like I said, there's 11 locations. It's normal business hours. The last 2 Saturdays before the election, it's open on Saturday as well. Okay, for more information, contact the Lake County Government Center. You can call Hammond City Hall tomorrow. We'll give you, but I know in downtown Hammond on Russell Street, that's where I voted. You could also vote at Wicker Park. Is there one in Munster? Munster Town Hall, okay? Locations like that, they're all over Lake County Government Center. So please, the last day to vote, I'm not gonna say election day anymore. The last day to vote is November 6th. And, you know, we got people working real hard, and I'm so looking forward to not seeing those Chicago governor commercials anymore. And I know you are too. I hate everybody right now. I just, please. So anyway, thank you, Councilman Dave, for bringing that up. Hey, Mark, I know we have an event coming up at the Civic Center. You want Donna to cover that?
We do. Donna and I think Councilman Werpel, because he was involved with
I
this
saw that.
from the beginning
I
as
saw that
far as
press
the one
release
region.
today.
But Donna's been really working on it a lot. And
Yeah, Donna, why don't you cover what's going on Saturday with Valparaiso basketball team?
Sure, I'm happy to, Mayor. At 2 o'clock, Valpo U men's and women's basketball is going to have an open practice at the Hammond Civic Center. There's going to be concessions. There's going to be a lot of fun and games for kids. The coaches are going to be there. The student athletes are going to sign autographs. The Crusader is going to be there. It's going to be a really nice time for families. And we, again, start at 2 o'clock on Saturday. Councilman Dave, do you want to add?
Yeah, I think Councilman Dave should. Hey, Councilman Dave.
Hi, Mayor Tom. Just that this came about on the one region thing that we are all part of.
Yeah. You met the VU president, Mark Heckler, and Pittsburgh last year, right?
It was in New Jersey.
New Jersey. Pittsburgh's this year. Right. Pretty cool.
And,
You're hanging
I
out
was-
with the president of VU? Never saw that coming, Dave, I'll be honest with you.
And the guy from Purdue, too.
Like this esteemed doctor. He's like, yeah, Councilman Dave Ham, he's such a great guy. I was like, I know he is. He put this together. He mentioned
Actually,
you.
we were sitting in a restaurant one morning waiting for Phil to come down because Phil always runs late. And he asked me
He
if
has
he
to
could
blow
sit
dry
down
his
and
hair.
have
It
some
takes a while,
coffee.
okay?
Huh?
He has to blow dry his hair. It takes a while.
Yeah.
So.
But we sat and had coffee, and when we were talking about what we were learning as far as cooperation between municipalities and universities, and I just looked at him and said, hey, when we get back home, you want to see if we can put something together? And gave it to Donna. Donna took the lead on it, and now we've got a Division I basketball team coming to the Civic Center for a practice.
That's great. That's really cool, Dave. Congratulations. That's I mean, you know, Councilman Werpel is sort of like, I think he considers himself like the part-time park superintendent. He does a lot of work with our park department. It's like his soft spot. He loves the park department. It's really cool that you brought this in. I mean, you and Don have done a great job, and we're real proud to have it. You know, Civic Center's had a lot of visitors lately. We had former Vice President of the United States there Friday, along with our current U.S. Senator. A couple thousand people there. Now, that was cool. By the way, that was huge to get that in Hammond. All right, there's a lot of jockeying that goes on to get something like that. There's only one stop that regardless of your politics, the guys only made one stop in Indiana, and everybody was fighting for it. We got it in Hammond. That was huge, and we had to scramble to get people there. Like I didn't care. I was like, just please show up. I need so many people there. It was really a nice night. So great job to the Parks Department. Phil, I know at the former FOP, and this is something going back to your time as planning and development, you were working with this group of hockey players about, you know, a hockey rink in Hammond, and you've been really watching this project come along, and I know the steel is on the ground right now. So could you talk a little bit about the former FOP site, please?
Absolutely. I feel like this is a project that's kind of been moving forward with very little fanfare for some reason. I think we've been maybe a little too quiet about it, but for those that are obviously familiar with Dowling Park, the city entered into agreement with a development group, a hockey development group, to build a hockey rink. And this was a while ago. The project is approximately $8 million. Eventually it will be 2 sheets of ice, but it will start with just one. And there also will be like if you've ever been to Sky Zone, where they have jumping, trampolines, and things of that nature, there will be a component of that as well at this facility for families. But it's very exciting that Hammond, this is a group that was trying to locate a hockey rink somewhere in Northwest Indiana. They were working with lots of different cities in Northwest Indiana, and they couldn't get it done. And they came to Hammond, and we figured it out. And the structure has already been delivered to Dowling Park now, so if you drive by there, you'll actually see it on the ground. The excavating actually has just begun, so you'll see the machinery out there. And we're going to have an official groundbreaking probably in about 3 weeks. But what's really exciting about this is pairing this with some of the programs that we have in Hammond, because hockey is an expensive sport for those of you that aren't involved. So some families, some kids never get an opportunity to even try it. We have sports programs that will help subsidize certain families that may not be able to afford it to have their kids try a sport that maybe they've never even thought was a possibility for them before. I think this is really exciting for not just Hammond, Northwest Indiana, because right now the closest facility is in St. John, or you have to go to South Bend. So getting this facility right off of 8094, we feel like it's going to be very successful. And again, it's not run by the city or owned by the city. It's a private group that's building it. But this is going to be a very important project for the city of Hammond. And one thing I want to mention about Councilman Werpel is that one concern he has is he wants to make sure that due to the increased traffic that this project could potentially cause, because Dowling Park is obviously very well used from Purdue and some of our residents as well. We are talking now about making sure cars don't start driving through the neighborhoods. That's why we put the new stoplight in off of Kennedy Avenue. That's why Mahoney Drive was expanded a little bit to prevent that from happening. So for those of you that are concerned about that, we do have that on our radar, and we're working on that right now. But I think this hockey rink is going to be a jewel for the city of Hammond. I hope you guys are just as excited about it as I am. So
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it. Good job. You know, we don't talk about crime stats very often. I watch them, I look at them, I never talk about them. I try not to talk about them because they could change quick. But I have noticed a trend in the right direction, and this year in particular. And I think that has a lot to do with some technology we invested in recently called LPR, license plate reader cameras. We have them located all around. It's called Hammond's Blue Net. We have signs up that announce it, but basically posted all around the borders of our city. We have license plate reading cameras that just collect data. That's all they do is they look at license plates and they log. This car went by at this time, this car went by at this time. That's all they do all day long. But it becomes a useful law enforcement tool when a bank is robbed, like the BMO Bank right by my house. You know, it's literally a half a mile from 8094. So if somebody could do it the right way and they can get down that half a mile real quick, they could be on 8094 in Illinois within 2 minutes of leaving the front door of the bank. It's very tempting for these robbers to come into our community and do bad things. So we invested a lot of money in this technology. It's amazing what it's done. I get little glimpses on the inside because obviously I work very closely with the Hammond Police Department. But I wanted the chief to talk a little bit about, you know, the phase one, the start we already did, phase two, which is, you know, currently getting placed in locations around the city, and, you know, just sort of a little bit about the system in general.
When we started phase one, there was already one system in place. That's the commercial side of it. You remember there's tow truck drivers driving around in every community everywhere, and they're employed by banks, and they have an LPR system on their cars and or their tow truck, whatever they happen to be driving. When they do exactly what the mayor just said. They collect data. When they drive by a car, it takes a picture of the license plate, runs it in the computer. If that particular sequence of number is wanted by any bank anywhere as a repo, it pops up on their screen, which gives them legal authority to contact their local police department, and then they call us, let us know what they're going to do, and they repo the car. Well, this is spread into law enforcement. So what we do is we put up cameras at our entrances and exits to our city. We start logging vehicles coming into and exiting our town, and we're not actively looking at that data. We are going to access that data normally historically. If somebody comes in our town and commits a crime, we not only have access to the commercial data, but we can look at the commercial data in a different way. Our computers in our cars are set up so that if you drive into Hammond, we've had it occur 5 times in about the last 7 days, a stolen car is driven into Hammond. The squads, the computer just goes beep, 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 and it says stolen car just came in off the Illinois ramp and came into Hammond, and squads respond to that area. We've gotten into pursuits with these vehicles, several apprehensions, and a couple of them we chased back to Illinois where they came from. We looked at it, that's a win. If you steal a car, you're already a bad guy. If you're coming to Hammond, you're going to commit another crime probably, like robbery, and leave in your stolen car, and hopefully you'll stay anonymous. If it is your car and you come here and commit a crime, and we get a description of the car, we don't even need the plate. We just need to know what your car kind of looked like, maybe a color, maybe a make, and we can look at a time frame, and we can watch your car leave, and we will already have your plate, and we can run it, and we'll meet you at your house. We do that all the time. We don't talk about it a lot. because it's becoming routine. It really is becoming part of our routine for our detectives just to go to that data, get evidence. We get evidence from house cameras, like a camera in your home. We go to local gas stations, convenience marts. Almost everybody has a camera nowadays. So we can get a description of that car or a partial plate, and we use the LPR system just to go nuts. And it's an easy tool, and it's an automatic tool. It's not one that invades your privacy. As you guys know, your license plate and your driver's license belong to the state, and it's readily accessible to law enforcement based on need and reasonable access. So it's helping us resolve a lot of crime. We started off our pilot program. The mayor gave us the funding to do about half the city. We started on the Illinois side because that's where most of our crime comes from. It's not committed mostly by Hammond residents. It's committed by mostly people coming from Chicago and other south suburb communities in Illinois. We're continuing on with this phase 2. That is, the cameras are up. We're just waiting to turn the power on. So it will be up and running before the end of the year, and we'll have our city pretty well buttoned up.
Awesome. Thanks, Chief. It's pretty incredible. You know, we don't want to give the bad guys tips, but man, if I was a bad guy, I would not do business in Hammond. You know, going back, we haven't had Mayor's Night for a while. We had virtual Mayor's Night, but that's different. We had the Copper Thieves situation going on. These guys are good. The Hammond PD is good. Okay? I mean, we knew we were going to get them. I got really lucky because we offered a reward Friday morning radio show, and we caught them that evening. It had nothing to do with their reward, but it looked really cool, I have to admit. But the Hammond Police Department's doing a great job, and we were looking for those guys, and we had a pretty good idea who they were, and they messed up. And the great thing is Hammond PD has a great relationship with the FBI, and when the FBI gets involved, that's great for all of us. Because when you go away on federal charges, you go away. You don't come back. They don't mess around. You just go away. You're gone. And these guys they did over $500,000 in damage throughout the city of Hammond, and they literally probably got a couple $1,000s in return. And we have to do all the repairs on the $500,000 worth of stuff just so they can get a couple $1,000s. Piece of garbage. So the feds are pursuing them with criminal charges, and the city of Hammond is filing civil lawsuits against them. Hopefully they own a home. Maybe, hopefully the businesses that took it, we're going to try to do everything we can to get our money back. But piece of garbage. One of them lived in our city. I mean, ruining his own city just to get a couple bucks. It's horrible. So anyway, hey, Joey Medwitz, how's it going? Joey's the 6th District Supervisor for Public Works. How you doing, Joey?
Good.
You drive a car that's labeled 6th District Supervisor all around, right?
Yes, I do, Mayor.
And I know a lot of you know Joey. He lives in the 6th District. If you have an issue regarding parks, regarding streets, regarding sanitation, even recycling, will take complaints or anything, you see this gentleman driving around, stop him. This is his area. I know he has a great relationship with Councilman Rakos, but this is his district, so I appreciate him sitting up here during Mayor's Night. Does anybody else, am I missing anything that we need to cover before we get out of here today? I'm going to take it as a compliment that we don't have a lot of questions, okay? Because I know if you were all pissed off about something, we'd have tons of questions, so I'll take it when we have a quiet Mayor's Night out. Yeah, hey, who? Oh, hey, Africa.
Hey, Mayor, I wanted to invite everyone to Downtown Hammond Council's Haunting in Hammond this Friday in downtown Hammond, Holman Avenue, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And if you come at 4 o'clock, I believe, you can meet Sven Gooley.
I just want to show you guys how much I love Hessville. I'm looking around right now. How much do I love Hessville? If you're from Hessville and you're at this table, raise your hand right now, please. All right, I'm doing all right. All right, I'm doing all right. Thank you. Doing all right. Oh, you're from Hessville. You live in Woodmar, Donna. What are you doing with your hand up?
You said from Hessville.
Okay.
I went to Scott. I'm a Scorp.
You did. Okay, I'll give you that. Okay, but she lives in Woodmar. All right. But we do. My job as mayor is to try to balance it out so that all parts of the city are represented. It's a very diverse city. All demographic groups are represented. I do my best. It's a hard balancing act to do, to pay attention to all parts of the city, and we do our best. So don't forget to vote, please. Thank you for showing up to Mayor's Night Out. I think this is the last formal Mayor's Night Out of the year. Is that a true statement?
Yes, sir.
That does not mean that we're not going to be doing virtual Mayor's Night Out, which is on Go Hammond TV. It's a more relaxed version of Mayor's Night Out. It's like Mayor's Night Out with beer. Basically, what would it be like to go out to dinner and talk about the same stuff we talk about? That's virtual Mayor's Night Out. If you see it, please watch it. Friday morning radio show we do every week. It's Hammond 311. We're open 24 hours a day, so if you have any problems, please contact us and we'll take care of it. That's our job. Thank you again to Colleen Berggren, Scott Middle School. Thank you very much. Thank you to you and all the elected officials that came out. Thank you for showing up to Mayor's Night Out. Bye, everybody.